Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Piano Lessons with Elvin, episode 19. This is going to be the third part of a continuation on how to read music. The last two episodes were on treble clef and bass clef, and on this one, I'm going to talk about ledger lines, which is going to be the notes beyond the staff being the 5 lines and 4 spaces. 5 lines, 4 spaces on bass clef, 5 lines, 4 spaces on treble clef. But there's 88 keys on the piano, so there's a lot more to cover. So ledger lines will be all of those ones, the ones in between the two staves and all of the notes above the staff and below the staff. So that's what this one will be. It's going to be a pretty straightforward concept, not as much intricacy as the last two videos. And then the next video in this series will be how to read music with both hands at the same time, both clefs, which is the big deal with playing piano. You got two hands. So, yeah, let me just grab the phone from you guys. Oh, actually, wanted to vent real quick. It's kind of funny. When I was making the notes for this pen's dead. I grab a different blue pen, that's dead. Grab a third blue pen, that's dead. And then I started to think, where did I get this pen from? I don't know where this came from. I don't know where any of my pens came from. You guys ever have this thing where, like, where do my pens come from and pencils? I don't think I've ever bought pens or pencils. I don't even know, maybe when I was a kid, but then my parents were buying it. So these pens and pencils are just in my house. I don't know where they came from. And now the pens are all dead, but for some reason I have 6 Sharpies. I have 2 orange Sharpies. Who's using an orange Sharpie? It's like, what? So, I had to write really hard to get some of it here, but newsflash to me, I might be one of the only people that's actually going to decide to order a pack of pens. It's going to be nuts. That's how much you guys mean to me. Okay, I'll grab the phone and we'll get starting. Okay, so what I wanted to do first here is just a bit of a reiteration on the prior two videos. So one thing, when we combine both staves, we get this little bracket here, and this is what we call the grand staff. This will pertain more in the next video, but what this means is everything hooked by this bracket is combined and then read simultaneously, which I'll save that for the next video. For now, my big thing I wanted to do here was show the expansive notes from the bottom line all the way to the top line of treble clef, which, let me just show real quick on the piano. Here's the full range, 88 keys. Bass clef, lowest note here will be this G, second lowest G, all the way up to this F here. So a pretty good amount of the keys. I mean, let's say about half the range if I really pull this back. So there's that F all the way to this G. Yeah, what is it? I'm going to say, let's just say half. So obviously, I mean, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of playing lots of music for the piano. It's like the big range. Everything else is going to be, you won't encounter it, especially in these initial phases. Once you get more advanced, you honestly will play them pretty frequently. But I wanted to also point out this other concept here, where, just to make sure we see this difference, because this will actually be pertinent on this video. So when we're in bass clef here, we get this B, middle C, D, and this is how it presents itself in bass clef. I have these in parentheses, because this is also B, middle C, D. It's the same 3 notes as these, just how it presents itself in a different clef. I do want to go over that, how bass clef doesn't exist on its own. Treble clef doesn't exist on its own. We can overlap. Notes in bass clef can appear in treble clef, because it's not, a clef is really a visual representation of a location. That's kind of a nice poem, visual representation of a location. So if we decide to write a note on bass clef, we could write that same exact location note in treble clef. And I'll explain that a bit in a second, but just wanted to explain why these are here, because everything is covered in the staff that I just showed you, except for these 3, which these would be the ledger line notes that exist outside of the 5 lines and 4 spaces. So here's some right here. Now, to continue with the full concept of ledger lines, we always think when we're reading music, it always goes line space, line space, line space, line space, line space, forever until you run out of notes. So this is what I wanted to demonstrate here. Here's the line space, blah, 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 blah. line, space, line, then up a space, then to a line. Now, how do we indicate we're on a line? By marking it with a one line through it. If you think about it, there's invisible lines in all of these blank spaces going through the whole thing. But if you just had an endless slew of lines, you wouldn't be able to comprehend or read anything here. So to mark it, they'll just draw the distance away. So we're like line, space, line, perfect. Now the next note is one above the prior note, so we have to indicate where we're at with that line at the bottom. Now right above that is the next line, line, space, line. That'll be on the second line. Line, space, line, space. Cool, right above it, line, space, line. And what I wanted to point out there, you can just kind of see how it keeps going. This will be the top note on the piano. I'm pretty sure, I didn't double check this, but this will be the highest note here, which is this C. Which, going back from the top line note of, so here's middle C, there's the top line, every good boy deserves fudge, and then, all the way at line, space, 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 line. And then what I just was saying there, line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space, that's going to coincide exactly with this when we end up getting to that stop, line, space, line, blah, 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 blah. So there's the highest C. With bass clef, let me turn that down for a second. We have that G as the bottom line, right below it, a F, because it goes line, space. Then, right below the F, a E as a line note. Now, underneath the E, a D. We have to indicate the line above it. And I'll explain why in a second. And then you keep going. C, B, A, G. And then the lowest note on the piano is a low A. Very cool note. There's some really sweet songs that have it in there. And, there's pretty far range there. Now, I wanted to explain why we have to indicate why do I have to have three lines here? Let's say this is in that physical location. I could just write this. And this is what I wanted to point here is, what the F is this? You will have no idea what this is. The determination of this note is based on how many lines you'll see. That's how it gets placed. This, to me, I go, well, I don't know. Is that like someone sloppily wrote a B? Is that, who knows what that could be? That could be, if I draw three lines under it, now I know that first line is middle C. So I'll go, okay, well, if there's three lines underneath it, here's middle C, D, E, F, G, A. I guess that's the A, huh? Or if I draw one line underneath it, or then I go, well, this one line is middle C, so right above it's D, cool. Or if there's two lines, now we know middle C is always this first ledger line, C, D, E, F. So I wanted to point out how, if you just have a standalone note floating around, you really will not know what it is. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And the physical location could be the same, but if I just screw around and keep adding other lines to it, this is sloppy because I'm, overlapping into a staff, but I think you get the point. Even though it hasn't changed locations, visually, hold on, sorry guys, I just hit a weird button on my keyboard here. Let me just turn it off for a second. But yeah, so even though it hasn't changed physical locations on the piano here, visually, it has changed physically. Like this is, if I had these four ledger lines here, let me just say that. So let's say that I'm in bass clef here. This would be one above a middle C, which would be D. Now, if I had all of these here, middle C's here. So we'll go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So now I go from what would have been this note, the D right above middle C, to then, whoa, all the way up here to that C. So that is why we have to indicate very specifically the amount of lines and spaces when we are doing ledger lines. And then the last point I wanted to make here was, you won't see this when we're starting to begin, but you will see music switch clefs a lot. And they tend to switch it around 3-ish ledger lines, and it's mostly a determining reason of what is easier and more efficient to read. This is very much up to your taste. Some composers love to just do a bunch of ledger lines because honestly, it looks cool. Like when I compose, sometimes I like to keep the ledger lines there. It makes it a little bit more difficult to read, which boosts my ego. Like, wow, look how cool I am. Look how advanced my song is. It takes people effort to read. But for the most part, you want people to You want to streamline the process so it's as efficient and coherent to read and understandable as you can. So with bass clef here, this note, there's middle C, C, D, E, F, G. The G above middle C, which will be, here's the G above middle C. Now that I could read, and because I've seen it so many times, I can read that pretty much immediately. But honestly, it's easier to read it in treble clef. This is the same note. Here's that G. You know, if we think about every good boy deserves fudge, here's that middle C. There's a G in treble clef. And that's what I was getting at the beginning, where you can present a note in any clef. I could have written this in treble clef. This is that second line, G clef, that we talked about. Or in bass clef, this is 3 ledger lines. Here's middle C, second ledger line, third ledger line to get to that G. All roads lead to Rome. I've been saying that. I just love that phrase, I guess. It happens. I mean, to me, that's a really great phrase in music because it can really help expedite things and help your comprehension when you can arrive at the same conclusion via different routes. So that G and that G are the same. Same kind of thing here in reverse. This would be the F below middle C in treble clef. There's C, C, B, A, G, F. And this F could also be classified as the F in bass clef, and this is, you know, aka bass clef is F clef, and we always know between the two dots there's that F. And that would be the same note. Here's the F below middle C as perceived in treble clef, or here's that nice F as bass clef, aka F clef. And especially in the beginning stages, these ones are much easier to read than the ones with the ledger lines. But once you get more advanced, you have to read ledger lines so often that it ends up being just about as efficient. And sometimes it's more of a visual thing, because if there's so many ledger lines in both hands, wow, my voice just squeaked. If there's so many ledger lines in both hands, it can get crowded. Like imagine if I'm making a song and there's a bunch of ledger lines here, while at the same time a bunch of ledger lines going down from treble clef. They get all mashed up here in the middle. And I wanted to show you, I always like to show real life examples of it. So last time I was showing you this list etude I'm working on. I just wanted to show a couple of areas where he's switching, I mean, you can ledger line galore here. This song goes all over the place. Let me just show you a nice ledger line thing here. So here's bass clef. We could go, okay, well, we know this is G. Good birds don't fly away. There's a G. Counting down. G, line, space, yeah, line, space, line. So there's E. There's that E, E, D, C, B. We get there. There's a E, D, C, B, A, G sharp. You can see I just keep stepping down. Line, space, line, space, line, space. And what I just counted from that E to that G sharp, I'll indicate here. That would have been E, let me turn the volume on again. E, D, C, B, A, G sharp. I'll talk about sharps and flats in some other video. So how many notes away is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just the G is sharp, but it's 6 notes away. Now if I'm looking at it in this song, E to G is also, you know, if I know that E's here, I count down. E is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Line, space, line, space, line, space. 6. So that distance is maintained in the music itself, 6 notes apart. So there's some ledger lines. We can look at a ledger line in right hand. What's a nice one? Let's do one over here. So if I'm looking at this ledger line, this one's pretty high. Right there, G's phone. So we know this is F. Every good boy deserves fudge. I can think F is here and count up F, G, A, B. B is right there, right above it. On this second ledger line, a C. Above that, a D. Above that, on the third ledger line, a E. And then one above that, that F, which will be this note on piano. Here's this C. There's the F. There's the F from Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge. Here's the F that we had written. How many notes apart is this F and this F? That is 8 notes apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or an octave. And if we look at it in context here, the F that I began on here, that F to that F is 8 notes apart. I can just count, you know, imagine the F here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. F to F. Line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space. 8 times. Sweet. So that's pretty much all I think I need to do to explain ledger lines for you. I said, on the next vid, I'll do what with reading with both hands. And I appreciate you guys as always. Thanks. It does help if you like, subscribe, and comment and all that jazz. But yeah, and hopefully by next lesson we'll get some new pens. That would be sick. But yeah, I hope that video was helpful. Really appreciate you guys watching it. And really, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment. I would love to answer it. I've been enjoying these. So yeah, we'll see you soon to start reading both hands, which will be a great time. So have fun practicing, and we'll see you guys next time. Okay, peace.